If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The 2021 MLB season is here, and although the seats may not be full, your bankroll has the chance to be. Greg Hoops Peterson has you covered for every game, every day this season, along with comprehensive analysis and angles for getting to the window while celebrating the walk-off winners and blown saves of what will be a wild season. Now it is time for the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. We've got a great podcast for you. In the second segment, our good friend Sharky Waters Nation is going to be joining me. He does absolutely terrific work handicapping a little bit of everything, and you've heard him on this podcast quite a few times. Always does a nice job of taking a look at the MLB betting board. So we're going to be taking a look at all the games for Tuesday, and then in the final segment, going to give you guys a side and total on every single game on the betting board for this Tuesday, and a little something I like to call Touch 'em All. First things first, always love to be able to answer Twitter questions on this podcast. If you got one or two ways we all fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. Amy does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not wind up getting in any Twitter questions today, but had a great day of baseball on Monday. So let's take a look back at it. Tried to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The St. Louis Cardinals just keep on winning as John Lester gets his 200th win, and the St. Louis Cardinals have now won 8 straight games. 5-2, they take down the Brewers as Lester gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Both of those were via solo shots going deep for the Milwaukee Brewers. Luis Urias, his 21st home run of the season, and Avisail Garcia got his 28th home run of the season as Freddie Peralta starting to look a little bit better since coming off the injured list, but clearly still not himself, giving up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to Nolan Arenado in the first inning, his 33rd home run of the season, and the Cardinals bullpen has been able to really rebuild itself. Luis Garcia, TJ McFarland, Cody Whitley all give you a scoreless inning, and then for the Milwaukee Brewers, you wind up having Hunter Strickland and Brent Suter both come out of the bullpen for an inning. They both give up a run, and then Miguel Sanchez winds up giving you a scoreless inning as the Brewers. They have been scuffling on offense a little bit recently, but the good news is Willie Adames was able to make a start yesterday, so looks like he's getting back to his normal self. You wind up having the Kansas City Royals and the Cleveland Indians play a twin bill with both of these games going to the Royals. First game wound up seeing the Royals get a 7-2 win over a hot pitcher, Mr. Tristan McKenzie, who got completely lit up in this one. He winds up giving up 7 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings. And for Mr. McKenzie, this is a man that he had given up a grand total of 9 runs over the course of his last 7 starts, 3 runs or fewer in every one of them. So certainly a far cry from how he's pitched recently, giving up a trio of home runs. From there, you wind up having John Carlos Mejia and Sam Entages give you a combined 2 2/3 innings scoreless, but going deep for the Royals, Salvador Perez, his 46th home run of the season, that ties the league lead. Andrew Benintendi, 16th home run of the season. Hunter Dozier, his 14th, and Brady Singer gives up 2 runs over the course of 7 innings, was able to complete the job with the team getting off to such a big lead. And then in game 2, you wound up seeing a pair of bullpens go at it, and for the Kansas City Royals, they were able to have Joel Payampas give them a relatively solid start, giving up 1 run over the course of 2 1/3 innings, as the Royals wound up taking this one by a count of 4-2, as taking him deep was Andres Gimenez, his 4th home run of the season, and then Bobby Bradley gets his 14th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Scott Barlow, as Barlow gives up that run in an inning, but Domingo Tapia, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Josh Jamount, Jake Brents both give you a scoreless inning, and then for the Kansas City Royals, they did a solid job of being able to get to Nick Wickren, who wound up being the opener in this one, giving up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. From there, Francisco Perez, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. You wind up having 1 2/3 innings out of Anthony Goss, who gives up a run. Justin Garza was able to give you an out of the bullpen, and then Brian Shaw gives up a run in an inning, and Emmanuel Clase winds giving you a scoreless inning. So it was certainly all hands on deck there, and the Royals were able to get it done. The Detroit Tigers get it done as well. They've got a winning record ever since the All-Star break, and they wind up getting a 4-3 win over a White Sox team that has now fallen to a record of 36-38 on the road. And for the White Sox, They wind up going 0-5 with men in scoring position. Mr. Carlos Rodon was pretty much an opener in this one, giving up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned over the course of 3 innings, as Cesar Hernandez wound up committing a fielding error that hurt him. Jose Ruiz, 2 scoreless innings from there. Garrett Crochet, Ryan Burr both give you a scoreless inning, but Craig Kimbrell gives up a run in the 8th that winds up costing them, as the Detroit Tigers were able to get Matt Manning to give them 5 innings, giving up 3 runs, and then the bullpen went to work from there. Detroit Tigers bullpen, by the way, in the top 8 with regards to ERA ever since the All-Star break. Alex Lang, Ian Kroll both give you a scoreless setting, and then you wind up getting 2 scoreless out of Drew Hutchinson for the Tigres to be able to get the job done. The Cincinnati Reds, yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and they were on to getting the job done against the Pittsburgh Pirates. 9-5 the final, big for the Reds after they had lost 2 out of their last 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates, as the Pirates did get a pair of home runs in this one. Yoshi Satsugo and Brian Reynolds take Vladimir Gutierrez deep in the first inning. For Reynolds, his 24th of the season, and for Satsugo, his 8th in 31 games for the Pirates after having none with both the LA Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays. For Gutierrez, chase after 3 1/3 innings, giving up all 5 runs, including 2 of those homers. But from there, Michael Lorenzen, 2 scoreless innings, Lucas Sims, Michael Givens, a scoreless inning, and Luis Sessa, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. And then for the Reds, pair of home runs from Joey Votto, his 32nd and 33rd home runs of the season, and Eugenio Suarez gets his 27th home run season, and then Kyle Farmer, his 15th, as this was not a good night for Dylan Peters, as he gives up 4 runs over the course of 3 innings, and then from there, Cody Ponce gives up 2 solo home runs over the course of his 2 innings. Connor Overton gives you a scoreless inning, and then Kyle Keller gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and Yel De Los Santos completes the final 4 outs, giving up a run in the process. So the Reds continue to help out their postseason hopes as they find themselves 3 games back of the St. Louis Cardinals for that second wildcard spot. The Miami Marlins of the Washington Nationals are not going to be going to the postseason, but in 10 innings, the Miami Marlins got the job done against the Washington Nationals by a count of 8-7. Lane Thomas, by the way, really lighting it up for the Washington Nationals. His 6th home run of the season, as he has, ever since being traded from the St. Louis Cardinals, been hitting a little bit over a 300 for the Washington Nationals. So give a little bit of credit there. Eric Fetty Wap, not necessarily the start that he was looking for. He gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, but 2 of these were unearned runs, as Alcides Escobar and Lane Thomas both make fielding errors, and the Miami Marlins hit him up for a trio of home runs, as Jazz Chisholm takes him deep twice, his 16th and 17th home runs of the season, and Jesus Sanchez, his 9th home run in the last 3 days, his 13th overall of the season. Jesus Luzardo, another terrible start for the Miami Marlins. He's got an ERA hovering right around 8 with Miami, giving up 5 runs over the course of 4 innings, including that home run to Lane Thomas. From there, the bullpen wasn't necessarily great, but they did enough. Zach Thompson gives up a run in an inning. Why he's coming out of the bullpen and not starting, I'm not sure. Zach Pop gives up 1 run in 2 innings, but then Richard Blyer and Anthony Bender combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Dylan Floro held Washington scoreless in the 10th. Meanwhile, for the Washington Nationals bullpen, you wind up having Patrick Murphy give up 2 runs and get just 1 out. Alberto Baladano was able to give you a scoreless inning along with Andres Machado and Tannerini Asenvato. He gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, and then Sam Clay in the 10th inning gives up the unearned run that starts on second base. And for the Washington Nationals, 13 men left on base, so that was brutal. Speaking of brutal, the Philadelphia Phillies and the fact that they wound up really hurting their postseason hopes on Monday with a 2-0 loss to the Baltimore Orioles. Now, John Means is the best starter for the Baltimore Orioles at this point. 6 2/3 innings scoreless, but still unacceptable by the Philadelphia Phillies, to say the least, as in the bullpen you wind up having Cole Sulzer give you 4 outs, and Tyler Wells was able to complete the 9th inning. As for the Baltimore Orioles, they go 2 of 6 with men in scoring position. Ranger Suarez gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. He has been rock solid for this Philadelphia Phillies team. A .160 ERA. Sam Coonrod, Archie Bradley, Bailey Falter all give you scoreless innings, but for the Phillies, just 4 hits in this one when they really needed it. They came up snake eyes. The Texas Rangers also came up snake eyes, as the New York Yankees are hoping to be able to get back into the wild card picture. They are now a half a game back of the Toronto Blue Jays, who wound up losing yesterday. We're going to get into that in a second. 4-3 the final. AJ Alexy, not the start he was looking for, giving up 4 runs over the course of 3 1/3 innings, including a home run that was belted out by Mr. Gary Sanchez, 22nd home run of the season. From there, the bullpen was relatively solid. Brett Martin, Jarrell Kahn both give you 5 outs without giving up a run. In the bullpen, Spencer Patton, 1 1/3 inning scoreless, and Charlie Culverson was able to get his 5th home run of the season. That comes off of one Nestor Cortez, who gives up 3 runs in 4 1/3 innings, entered into this game with a sub-2 ERA at Yankee Stadium. But then from there, Clay Holmes, Chad Green both give you 5 outs out of the bullpen without giving up a run. Aroldis Chapman, a sign to behold at this point, in which he wound up pitching a scoreless inning and got the save. He has been very shaky this summer, and Joey Rodriguez was able to give you an out of the bullpen, so the Yankees were able to get the job done. Speaking of being able to get the job done, the Seattle Mariners, who just continue to cling for dear life in the wild card chase. They are now 3 games back of that second wild card spot. The A's are 2 games back. 4-2, the Seattle Mariners get it done as they don't wind up getting any homers, but how about Tyler Anderson? 1 run given up in 7 innings. Diego Castillo gives up a run in a third of an inning, but Paul Sewald gets the final 5 outs to be able to nab the save. And for the Oakland A's, Sean Manaea continues to get bad starts. He winds up giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. You take a look at Sean Manaea, and it has not been good for him recently, as he has now allowed at least 3 runs in 5 out of his last 8 starts. And then from there, the bullpen actually did a solid job as the A's bullpen entering into this one. Bottom 5 with regards to ERA in the last 30 days as Samuel de Olias Carrera both give you a scoreless setting, and then Domingo Acevedo was able to give you 2 scoreless settings, but nothing doing for this Oakland A's team on offense. Absolutely nothing doing for the LA Angels on offense, a team that has scored the second fewest runs per game of any team in the major leagues since the All-Star break, and here in the month of September, averaging right around 3.1 runs per game, completely get shut out by the Houston Astros by a count of 10-0 as Jaime Barria didn't necessarily have a terrible start. He did give up 10 hits, but only 2 runs surrendered, and he winds up giving up one of those via a home run over the course of 5 1/3 innings. As taking him deep was Mr. Jose Siri. Siri, tell me how many home runs he has so far this year. 4. That's my Siri voice. That's not necessarily good. And then from there, you wind up having a pair of home runs belted in the 8th and 9th innings. Martin Maldonado, his 11th home run season off of Andrew Watts. And then you wind up having the 5th home run of the season for Mr. Marwin Gonzalez, as serving that one up was Mr. Jose Marte. And the Marte Parte did not have a good parte, as he winds up giving up 4 runs in his inning of work. And Andrew Watts gave up 4 runs in his inning of work. Jimmy Ergot was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Mike Myers winds up giving you a scoreless inning as well. But for Shohei Ohtani, 0-4 performance ever since July 28th has been hitting below the Mendoza line for the Houston Astros. Framber Valdez was just mowing him down. He goes 7 scoreless innings. From there, Brooks Raley was able to give you a scoreless inning. And you also got a scoreless inning out of Seth Martinez in what I believe is his MLB debut. So give him some credit. Give credit to the Tampa Bay Rays as well. They take down the Toronto Blue Jays, who now cling to dear life for that second wildcard spot, leading that by half a game. 6-4 the final. New York Post play of the day won down thanks to a pair of home runs late, as I wound up having the under in this one, as you wound up having Marcus Semien get his 41st home run of the season. That comes off of David Robertson, and then Shane Baz, who is making his MLB debut. He gives up 2 hits in 5 innings. Unfortunately, both of those were solo home runs. Teoscar Hernandez, 29th home run of the season. Lourdes Gurriel, his 20th, both off of Baz, but still looked very good in this one, as Robbie Ray takes a loss, as the Cy Young hopeful did not have it in this one. 4 2/3 innings, gives up 3 runs, including a homer. Going deep for the Tampa Bay Rays would be Yandy Diaz, his 12th home run season, and then Joey Wendell winds up going deep off of Ryan Baruki a little bit later, his 11th of the campaign, as Baruki got 4 outs but gave up that solo home run. Taylor Saucedo gives up an unearned run, as you wound up having a Jake Lamb throwing error hurt them. Julian Merriweather gave you an out of the bullpen, and Nate Pearson has looked really shaky. He winds up going 2/3 of an inning, giving up a run himself. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen did wind up having Mr. Robertson give up that home run, 2 runs in total without getting it out. But JT Chargois, along with Diedrich Ennis, combined for a scoreless setting. JP Fireeisen gives you a scoreless setting, and Colin McHugh 2 scoreless settings. So the Tampa Bay Rays just continue to fire on all cylinders. They continue to hold the best record out there in the American League, and this game is pretty much final. We're heading to the bottom of the 9th, as the Atlanta Braves are just absolutely destroying the Arizona Diamondbacks by a count of 11-4. With Scotty Yanoa, not necessarily the world's greatest start, giving up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings, but Jacob Webb, Sean Newcomb, Chris Martin have all given you a scoreless setting. Main blemish was the fact that Richard Rodriguez gave up a solo home run to pinch hitter Jake McCarthy for his first career home run. So a little bit of a shout out there, but Humberto Mejia got destroyed, giving up 6 runs over the course of 4 innings. From there, Taylor Widener, who began the season as a starter, is now coming out of the bullpen. As I've always talked about Josh Towers on VSiN, when you wind up having starters go to the bullpen and bullpen guys go to the starters, typically it's not a good transition, and it's not going well for him, as Adam Duvall took him deep for his 37th home run of the season. And then Brett DeGeis would allow a home run to Eddie Rosario, 13th home run of the season for DeGeis, gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, to heighten his ERA to a 7.53. Sean Poppin was able to give you 2 scoreless innings, and for Widener, among the 3 runs he gave up, only 1 was earned, as the Marte Parte of Ketel Marte wound up making an error in this one. And for the Diamondbacks, now 102 losses for them, and you're taking a lot of losses right now if you've just been betting overs blindly over the last 30 days. Let's take a look at how that is going, as we've seen 191 unders and 178 overs in Major League Baseball over the last 30 days. So that's nearly a 52% hit rate. If you're looking at favorites, they've been drying up a little bit over the last 30 days. 224 and 165 home teams. 190 and 206. They've been winning at a rate of 58% the last 30 days, which is certainly strange. Home teams over the last 7 days winning at a rate of more like 46.5%. 44 and 51. Meanwhile, favorites 53 and 40, so they're winning at a rate of about 57% in this time span. 43 overs and 42 unders, so relatively 50-50. And season to date, we've seen a couple more unders and overs. 1,071 unders, 1,057 overs, so underrating at a rate of about 50.3%. According to our good friends at Covers, favorites are winning at a rate of about 59.5%. 1,317 and 900 is the favorite so far this year. And home teams, 1,207 wins, 1,033 losses, so winning at a rate of about 53.9%. So that's what we wound up seeing in Major League Baseball on Monday, and that's what we're all seeing trend-wise. Now let's turn the page forward to Tuesday and take a look at these games with one of our good friends, Sharky Waters Nation. That chat is on the other side right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. It is always a pleasure to be joined with this guest, as he does a terrific job handicapping a little bit of everything in the NFL, which I know that it was a very big bloodbath for a lot of people in the NFL, which is why I like to stick with baseball. So we've got that going on, as we do have Sharky Waters Nation joining me on the podcast. You're able to follow him on Twitter at Sharks, the letter N, and then the word sports all together, and Sharky Waters Nation. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, Greg. We're sitting here watching your esteemed football team. As you said, it is NFL Monday. You love to handicap baseball for one particular reason. You get a large sample size. And capping the NFL is so condensed, so compressed into one game, it is incredibly hard to predict. But fortunately for us, we're capping baseball. It is almost postseason. We're discussing the card for September 21st. I can't wait to do it. And Greg, let's dive right into it.
Absolutely. And we've got a great series coming up, perhaps a little bit of a postseason preview between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays. We wound up seeing Shane Baz make his debut for the Rays yesterday. He did wind up giving up a pair of solo homers, but looked very, very solid. And now you've got another guy on the bump for the Rays that looks very solid in his own right. That would be Mr. Drew Rasmussen. Rasmussen wound up coming over in that trade for Willie Adames with the Milwaukee Brewers, and he has given up one earned run or fewer in each out of his last 6 starts. Guy has been a rock, giving up 2 home runs in 49 innings so far this year. He's going up against another young rookie in Alek Manoah, and Manoah, he has been very good, having a 3.39 ERA. He's given up 11 homers in the course of 93 innings. Not sure about you, but I think that this is one of the better matchups on the board. And I've been riding Rasmussen a lot recently, and I've personally had a lot of success betting on the Rays whenever he's taken the bump.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I was looking at this. I was looking at the line Tampa Bay 115, not really giving me a whole lot of transparency there. Obviously, Tampa Bay at 92 and 58 at a plus 172. We've been talking about this all year. Toronto had this incredible run differential for months and just could never seem to get any wind in their actual win-loss percentage. But they finally have. They have been smoking hot for over a month. You know who's been smoking hot is Alek Manoah, particularly at home against Tampa Bay. 15 innings pitched consecutively at home, 20 Ks and not only 0 earned runs against. So you go to the other side of this. You look at Drew Rasmussen, as you said, came over in the Adames trade. Shout out to Adames, obviously balling for your Milwaukee Brewers. But he has been very, very above average. And I think if you look at Manoah's home-away splits, a trend we talk about with all pitchers when I come on the podcast, he has been far worse on the road. I do have a lean here to Tampa Bay at minus 115 on Tuesday at 7:10 p.m. in the Trop.
Absolutely. We are on the same page here. A pair of guys that have been very solid, but I do take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays in this spot, and this one and the New York Mets desperately need wins, and they need wins in a hurry to have any hope of making the postseason. Meanwhile, the Boston Red Sox, they're in a little bit of a better situation, but they certainly need wins as well. They've got Eduardo Rodriguez taking the mound for them. Meanwhile, Marcus Stroman has taken the bump for the Mets, and Marcus Stroman has just been unlucky this year. He's got a sub-3 ERA and a 9-12 record. That just doesn't happen very often. You got a guy in Eduardo Rodriguez who's got north of a 5 ERA and a winning record, so go figure there. Right now we're seeing the Mets as between about a plus 130 to even as high as a plus 145 underdog. I recognize that the Mets have been very rocky. We know the history of the Mets, but if you're giving me a plus 145 on the Mets in this spot, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement yet again. I looked at Marcus Stroman, and we know Marcus Stroman off the field is very outspoken, very articulate, very intelligent. I believe he grew up in Long Island, a very well-educated guy, very outspoken in a lot of different ways. But that does translate to on-field quality. And I take you back to a few starts, particularly one at the Yankees, obviously within the same division, the Red Sox and Yankees, very similarly weighted in this campaign as well. He pitched very well. The Mets did get the win, and I believe a 7-inning game a couple months ago. And as you mentioned, Eduardo Rodriguez has gotten away with murder for most of the year. He has been far worse at Fenway Park. Slightly better on the road for different reasons. Obviously, Nick Pivetta has very similar splits. I think it obviously has to do with the dimensions of the park, maybe some air and some pitch frequencies. But I would lean the Mets here, too. I think Marcus Stroman will continue to be good. I think he'll focus very well in this environment. I think Eddie actually coming in here off of 3 pretty solid starts consecutively, the last 3, is due to implode back in Fenway, where he has imploded time and time again this year.
I agree with you. I do think that Mr. Rodriguez, with his north of 6 home ERA, it is going to nip him in the tuchus eventually. I think that the Mets have just enough to be able to get the job done. A man with more than enough to be able to get the job done, that'd be you, Sharky Waters Nation, and he is joining me right now on the Baseball Betting Podcast. And when it comes to this game out there at Coors, I think it's a fascinating one, as you've got Antonio Senzatella going for the Colorado Rockies, Julio Urias going for the LA Dodgers. And for Urias, he leads the league with 18 wins, and 12 of them have come on the road. He has been superb there. But speaking of superb, Antonio Senzatella, you take a look at his last 6 starts, 3 runs or fewer given up in pretty much all of them. He has figured it out on the road. All year long, he's been relatively consistent at home. Now, going up against the LA Dodgers, a team that has had his number a little bit aside from really his last start in Dodger Stadium, that is a little bit of something. But I take a look at this total of 11, and as we know, the ball flies out in Coors, but now things are a little bit cooler in there now that it's mid-September, and I'm taking a look at an under in this spot. I don't know what way you wind up leaning in this one, but I certainly do think that we're going to have a pair of guys that said Senzatella and Urias who wind up giving good starts.
I wasn't specifically honed in on any sort of official take here, but I did find it interesting, as you noted. Julio Urias, I believe, with the best win-loss percentage in the National League. You go back months ago, he did have a rather pedestrian outing for his quality with 4 earned runs against in Coors. He had also had a prior start back then at San Diego. I believe it was back-to-back road in the division starts where he was not very good. That was the last time he's given up anything north of 3 earned runs in a game. The guy has been absolutely lights out. Same thing with Antonio Senzatella coming in here. Early season back in April, he did get rocked by the Dodgers at home. And then he went on the road recently with a very nice outing. I believe 7 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. I think you're going to see a lower scoring game as well. Kind of hard for me to pick a win-loss here. I think the game's a flip. Obviously, Colorado at home, very, very good. And the Dodgers, obviously, a class organization.
I agree with you. And with the Dodgers, it's been so fascinating. It's in the last 30 games that they play 7 overs. So they have been a very good team to the under, and a team that has been relatively solid to the over, and a team that you've wanted to fade recently is the Chicago White Sox whenever Dallas Keuchel winds up taking the bump. He is going to be going on the road against the Detroit Tigers, who throw out their Tyler Alexander. And I recognize that Alexander isn't necessarily the Mona Lisa Vito of pitching, but at the same time, he's been able to do a relatively solid job. And finding the White Sox is between minus 160 and minus 165 favorites on the road. Not a spot that I want, with the team being 2-8 and Keuchel's last 10 starts.
I couldn't agree more. I go back through this, as we discuss every single time I come on here, and I will repeat it yet again. These pitchers this year in particular have uncanny home-away splits. Dallas Keuchel has been terrible on the road. And you go back a little earlier this year, he did pitch at Comerica and gave up 7 earned runs in less than 4 innings. And he has not bounced back really in any format. This seems to be just who he is. As you mentioned, Tyler Alexander, fairly pedestrian, not stand out in any way. Usually hovers around 3 to 4 innings pitched, couple earned runs here, in and out. I think you're going to see runs in this game, and I think you've seen a lot of runs, obviously, with the White Sox this year. Detroit's lineup at home functions very well. They are 39-36 on the campaign at home, only 6 under. I think there's a lot of upside next year. I would lean an over in this game, and I would not talk anybody off of taking the Tigers here either.
Don't disagree with you there, as I do think that we're going to have a good performance here from the Tigers, who actually have been above 500 ever since the All-Star break as well. So they've been playing some of their best baseball towards the back half of the season. Another team that is heating up, That'd be the St. Louis Cardinals. They hit the road to face off against the Milwaukee Brewers, and they send out there the Woodford, Jake Woodford. And we do have an initial line on this game, as a lot of books did not wind up posting this overnight because he had a little bit of a switcheroo with Woodford and John Lester. But right now, circa finding the Brewers at minus 210 with Brandon Woodruff taking the mound. Certainly a little bit chalky if you're looking at a money line. This is, in my opinion, either a take on the St. Louis Cardinals at about a plus 190 or a take on the Brewers on a run line at more around even money, just because I just don't think that it's really feasible to be laying $2 in the spot. And for Brandon Woodruff, he has been amazing at home. And the Brewers, though their road record is better than their home record, pitching just wherever it's been has been incredible.
I wouldn't disagree with you there. We talk about this all the time, but laying 1.5 is a totally different environment for people that are a little more novice to MLB capping. Obviously, when it's 2-1 on the money line, the percentage to win is 66.5%. But when you look at the run line, it comes down to pick. It's 50%. They're not really giving you any edge there. They're telling you you're coin flipping and you're trying to find the environment. We talk about all the pitchers' names. Jake Woodford versus Brandon Woodruff. I love it. But Woodruff coming home here. He did have a poor outing at St. Louis this year, and he did ace them at home. I believe he will pitch very well here. He also didn't pitch particularly well in his previous 2 starts coming into tomorrow's outing. 3 or 4 earned runs against him, both of them, I believe. The last time he had back-to-back starts of 3 earned runs or more, he did come home in the next start against San Francisco, obviously the class of the San Francisco Giants, and did pitch very well. 1 earned run over 6 innings. The Brewers did lose that game, but that was on the bullpen. I would lean here towards an under, actually, because I think Woodruff will pitch very well, and I think Woodford will be middle ground to pedestrian. I think it will hover around 8 or under.
And with the Cardinals and Woodford's last 2 starts against the Dodgers and the Mets, pair of wins. So he's actually been able to come through for them in the St. Louis Cardinals, looking to be able to perhaps shore up that second wild card spot as well. So going to be very interesting to watch that down the stretch, as we do have Sharky Waters Nation joining me on the podcast. And this is pretty much a loser leave town sort of series between the Seattle Mariners and the Oakland A's, as you've got Paul Blackburn taking the bump for the Oakland A's. Not necessarily a guy that I have a lot of faith in. Meanwhile, we've got Marco Gonzalez on the bump for the Seattle Mariners. Now, with Gonzalez, he certainly does give up the deep ball. Someone that's giving up right around 1.9-ish home runs per 9 innings. But I take a look at Paul Blackburn, and he's just a guy that I want absolutely no part of. A total on this game of 8.5, which is interesting because you've got a Mariners team in which they've been actually pounding out the deep ball a little bit, but at the same time, you've really got one of the worst batting averages that we've ever seen from a playoff contending team. So got a whole lot going on in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, if you go back to August 23rd, these 2 pitchers did square off against each other in the Oakland Coliseum. And in that particular game, Oakland was a minus 140 favorite. And I always talk about it in terms of the lines within the same exact matchup. When a guy is laying 140 and the next line comes in the following month later at 120, they're suggesting upward movement for Seattle. Seattle did win that game, but Seattle did backdoor that game. Paul Blackburn gave up 2 earned runs in the first 5 innings, I believe. He kind of flirted with disaster. He had runners on base, but he got away with it. Marco Gonzalez has been solid against Oakland all year. 3 starts, 2 quality starts. The non-quality start was 4 innings pitched, 6 Ks, 1 earned. He obviously did high pitch count there, but he is very solid against this lineup. I would lean Mariners here, and I think the Mariners will continue to come up. And just a loose point, going back to the Milwaukee side, obviously St. Louis having won 8 in a row. Oakland has won 5 in a row. Those are the 2 hottest teams in baseball right now outside of the Red Sox as well. I think they're due to come down a little bit in the small window. I would lean Mariners here.
I don't disagree with you there, as I'm going to be taking a look at the Seattle Mariners myself. And I know you were talking about names a little bit earlier. It's unfortunate that we don't have a line in the other AL West game, as you've got Jose Urquidy going for the Houston Astros and our man Packy Naughton going for the LA Angels. I can tell you right now, setting the Angels, that's a relatively sizable underdog in that spot. I think we both agree, rightfully so, as we do have Sharky Waters Nation joining me on the podcast. And my friend, is there anything else that you're going to be taking a look at for this Tuesday? Because we got a full slate of baseball. We talked about quite a few of the games that do have postseason implications. Anything else that's really jumping out to you?
In terms of the capping, we could go into every game. We could go into immense detail, but we keep it to a real fast, hot 15 minutes here, and we love to do it. I'd like to give a shout out to the Yankees for being the most underachieving squad in the recent history. I'm a huge fan, and it is just unbelievable to watch on a daily basis. Of course, they're playing the Texas Rangers, the very, very below average 22-52 on the road Texas Rangers. Every game's a sweat with this team, and as a fan, it's really disagreeable to watch. I know Greg is having a campaign for his generational lifetime here watching this beautiful Brewers team this year. I can't say as a Yankee fan I'm on any sort of that wavelength. It's been painful to watch. And, one small point before we close out. I got to say, as a sport, the sport is profiting from the Yankees' futility to a degree because the Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox are all within a couple games of each other. This is entertainment at its finest. I love to watch it. I grew up a fan. I love to cap it professionally just like Greg. But this is great entertainment closing out the regular season, Greg.
And imagine if we wind up getting Red Sox versus Yankees in a winner-take-all wild card to be able to make the postseason. I think the MLB would like the ratings of that game. I'm not necessarily the biggest TV ratings guy on the face of planet Earth, but I have to think that would draw very well. Just like this podcast draws very well whenever we've got Sharky Waters Nation on. I don't know how and I don't know why, but every time we get you on, for one, a lot of people make a lot of money, and for two, I wind up getting a lot of downloads. So it works out very well for all of us, and I know that you do a great job with a wide variety of things. I know you've jumped into all forms of football. When it comes to the NBA and college basketball season, you do a great job of being able to hold it down there, and you obviously do a great job day in and day out when it comes to the MLB betting board as well. So all the good people at home know they're able to follow you on social media and just everything that you've got going on in general.
Absolutely. And as we come into the fall, as we've said numerous times, we're coming out of the summer, which is a bit of a lackluster environment. We got college football Saturdays. I do a show every Friday night on Twitter, Sharks and Sports, letter N between the two words, Sharks and Sports. 9 words of lifestyle, ride the wave or get out of the water. I also do NFL football. We host a GPO lock, capper collective NFL competition on Sundays with our top 4 plays. NBA shows will start with J Money is Money, October 19th. And college basketball starts, I believe, in 60 to 70 days. I will definitely be on the podcast with a legend in the making, the Pros Pro, Greg Peterson. I can't wait to get on there with you and talk some college basketball. Thanks for having me, Greg, and let's get back on here soon.
Absolutely. One thing I do need to clean up, though, 7 weeks from today, we will have college basketball action, so approximately 49 days away, but who's counting, you know? With that said, Sharky Waters Nation does a great job bringing it in a wide variety of different areas, covering all sorts of sports, and always does a great job on this podcast as well. So big thanks to our good friend Sharky Waters Nation for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you a sign total on every game on the betting board for this Tuesday, and a little something you like to call Touch 'em All.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Always a pleasure to have Sharky Waters Nation join the podcast. He does an absolutely terrific job of just taking a look at baseball in general, handicapping a little bit of everything, and whenever he joins this podcast, he always brings it. So, big thanks to him. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you a sign total on every game on the betting board for this Tuesday, and a little something I like to call Touch 'em All.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch 'em all.
Do note that, as per usual, we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games are going to be at the bottom, so we're going to get things squared away with that, and any changes that are made are also going to be made on the spreadsheet as well. So let's dive in. First game up, we've got 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board as the Pittsburgh Pirates walk the plank to Cincinnati, as we are on to Cincinnati, to look at the Reds and also the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mitch Thunder Keller is going to be going for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Meanwhile, Tyler Mahle is going to be on the bump for the Reds, and the Reds are finding themselves as sizable favorites in this spot of anywhere between a minus 181 and a minus 195. Meanwhile, your plus price with Pittsburgh, you're going to be getting anywhere between plus 165 and plus 179 is your total over and under anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115. And for Mahle, he certainly has had his hiccups when it comes to being able to pitch at home so far this year, and he's got some of the most demonstrative home and road splits that we're going to find in baseball, and it's the opposite of what you'd expect, because at home so far this year, 6.09 ERA, on the road a .85 ERA. At home, he's given up 18 home runs in 68 innings, on the road 5 bombs, given up in 97 and third innings, and opponents throwing a .92 off of him away from Cincinnati, 276 off of him at home. And then you take a look at Mitch Keller, and this is a man that away from home has done significantly better than at home. 7.76 home ERA, 3.63 road ERA. On the road and at home has given up 5 home runs in both locations in fewer innings on the road, but on the road is allowing opponents at a 269 off of them compared to a 341 at home. So you've got very interesting splits there. Now with the Cincinnati Reds, you certainly do have a lineup in which they are ailing a little bit, as Jesse Winker along Taylor Naquin have been dealing with a little bit of injury, but You've also got a trio in Nick Castellanos, Joey Votto, and Eugenio Suarez, who have all given you at least 26 home runs so far this year. Votto, I believe, still leads the National League in home runs ever since the All-Star break. Might have been taken over by Bryce Harper, but certainly has been able to do a great job as Castellanos, Mr. Votto, you're able to throw in there Jonathan India. All between a 360 and a 375 on base. Kyle Farmer has been able to right around a 255, but the injuries have caused for the teams to throw out there guys like Jose Barrero, along with Delano DeShields Jr., who are necessarily doing a great job with the bat. Aristides Aquino as well. And then you take a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Ryan Reynolds has been able to do a good job for the team, hitting a 300. He's been able to slug out north of 20 home runs. Yoshi Satsugo, since coming over to the Pirates, he has been relatively solid as well. He's got all 7 of his home runs so far this year in the 30 games that he's played with the Buccos, hitting nearly a 300, so that's a good side. But then you take a look at Michael Perez, Hoy Park, Kevin Newman, Kai Tom, Cole Tucker, all these guys, they're hitting at 225 or lower. Now you have Wilmer Defoe and Colin Moran both hitting right around 270. Ben Gamble, Cabrian Hayes, both hitting in the neighborhood of about a 250. But you take a look at both of these bullpens and they're rough. And the reason why the Pirates bullpen is rough is because David Bernard is dealing with a little bit of an injury. You've been without Kyle Kirk for quite a while, so that means that you've got guys like Shelby Miller, Luis Oviedo, Cody Pounce coming out of the bullpen. And then for the Reds, it certainly has been rough for them as well because you've got Michael Givens giving you a couple good innings. Willie Sessa has been up and down, and you've got Justin Wilson who's been able to do a relatively solid job recently, but it's not had the best of years. Lucas Sims has not been able to give you a whole heck of a lot, but I do think that even though we do have some strange splits, I think that's going to be tough for the Pirates to necessarily generate a lot of offense. And when I take a look at Tyler Mahle, I do think that he's going to be backed up by an offense that is going to be able to supply with him some runs. So, good old something's got to give situation. Wound up saying the Reds is right around a minus 195 favorite. If you're looking at the run line, you're going to be finding that anywhere between an even money and plus 105 on the Reds was willing to lay a price. So, we're going to be going with that Reds run line. Also set this a little bit north of 9.5. So, over and the Reds run line, the play 953, 954 on the betting board. You've got the Washington Nationals, and they hit the road to face off against the Miami Marlins. Battle over Rogers, as Josh Rogers is going to be going for the Nats. Meanwhile, Trevor Rogers is going to be on the bump for the Fish. The Fish are finding themselves as a favorite at circa of minus 151 plus 138 on the Nationals. They are currently the only place that has a number up on this game, and your total is 8 over and under are both at minus 110. When it comes to the circa number, I would be taking a look at the Fish, and I would be taking a look at an over, set this all at an 8.2, and you take a look at Trevor Rogers overall for the year. He has been able to do a solid job now. He's only made a couple starts since coming off the injured list, but by and large, 2.71 ERA so far this season. He has made 3 starts ever since coming off the injured list, giving up a grand total of 7 runs over the course of 12 and 2/3 innings. So hasn't necessarily been his normal self, but has only given up 1 home run over his last 5 starts overall. And he's been able to lessen the walks as well, giving up a grand total of 4 walks in his 3 starts since coming off the injured list. And at home so far this year, he's actually been a little bit worse than on the road. 2.88 home ERA, 2.60 road ERA, but has given up just 2 home runs in 50 innings in Miami. And then you take a look at Josh Rogers, and he's had a couple good starts here for the Washington Nationals, giving up 3 runs or fewer, and all 3 of them going 5+ innings in every one of them, a grand total of 5 walks, surrendered in 17 1/3 innings. But you take a look at what he's done in previous years, and I think that regression is going to be setting in as he wound up having an ERA north of 8 during the 2018 and 19 seasons with the Baltimore Orioles. And then you take a look at the Nationals bullpen, and you certainly don't have a lot of guys that are necessarily too reliable for the team. Andres Machado has been able to give you a little bit of something. You've got Kyle Finnegan, who's got a sub-3 ERA, and Wander Isuero, this guy sucks, it appears, is currently on the injured list, so that's actually an upgrade for them. And then you take a look at the lineup. Lane Thomas, ever since coming over, he has actually been very good for this team. He had a home run yesterday. He's hitting above a 300 with the Nationals. You've got LCD's Escobar sitting about at 285. Ryan Zimmerman, Josh Bell, pair of guys sitting between about a 245 to a 260, and then with Mr. Bell and Juan Soto. How about both of these guys? Between 26 and 28 home runs, and for Soto, a 460 on base. And the nights are open that their young guys wind up developing a little bit as well. Carter Kieboom, along Keber Ruiz, and Luis Garcia, all right around between about a 213 to a 230, and then for the Miami Marlins, Jesus Aguilar has been able to supply all season long for the team, but got a couple injuries. Now, the good news is Jesus Sanchez now has 9 home runs over the last 30 days for the team. He has been very solid, hitting nearly a 250 for this bunch, but then you've got quite a few guys hitting a 200 or lower. You've got Peyton Henry along with Eddie Alvarez. You're able to throw in there Izan Diaz, Lewin Diaz, list goes on and on of guys that you need to be able to pick it up as they're hitting a 215 or lower. But Jazz Chisholm, he's hitting about a 250, 16 home runs so far this year. Brian De La Cruz is hitting a 325, and this is a relatively steady Miami Marlins bullpen at zone. Floro's been very good for the team. Anthony Bender, Anthony Bass, both of these guys have come through with really solid ERAs, and then see what occurred as an ERA hovering right around 2.15 as well. So I do take a look at this spot, and I was willing to take up to about a minus 165 with the Miami Marlins. If you're looking at the run line at circa, it's a plus 131. I would certainly be looking at that. Like I said, on an 8, I'd be taking a look at the over. At an 8.5, it would be more of a look on the under. And like I said, only place that currently has this up is circa, but currently looking at a Miami Marlins run line to go along with an over. This one is also only being offered at circa right now, as we've got 955, 956 on the betting board. The Jake Woodford, is going to be going for the St. Louis Cardinals as they hit the road to face off against the Milwaukee Brewers, who throw out their Brandon Woodruff. And the Brewers, minus 210 favorites, plus 190 on the St. Louis Cardinals, and 7.5 is your total over and under, both at minus 110. If you wind up giving me this, I'd be looking at the Brewers as right around a minus $2 favorite on the money line. Currently, the run line that Circa is offering is a minus 104 on the Brewers, was willing to lay up to a minus 113, so I'd be looking there. I set this whole at 8.3, so we'll be looking at an over as well. When it comes to Brandon Woodruff, he has seen his performance dry up a little bit recently, but a drying up of performance for Mr. Woodruff is still better than what most MLB pitchers have been able to throw out there this year, as he's given up a combined 7 runs over his last 2 starts in 12 total innings after he wound up during the month of August posting up a 2.77 ERA. Has been giving up the deep ball a little bit more. He's given up 7 home runs over the course of his last 7 starts, but you take a look at the way that he's been dealing in Milwaukee so far this year, and it has been very solid. 2.37 home ERA. He has given up 9 home runs in 79 and 2/3 innings. Opponents starting at 2.29 off of him, so it's been good there. His walks per 9 is right around a 1.5, and then you take a look at Mr. Woodford, and on the road he's actually been better than at home. 4.02 road ERA compared to a 4.71 at home, giving up 4 home runs in 31 and 1/3 innings away from home, and opponents starting at 2.54 off of him. And really, ever since he's gotten a little bit more of an opportunity, he's been relatively solid. In his long relief appearance against the Brewers and his last 2 starts, he has given up a combined 3 runs over the course of 13 and 1/3 innings, and in both of his starts against the Dodgers and the Mets, the teams were able to get a win. And then you take a look at this Cardinals team, and you have been able to get a little bit more offense out of them recently, as they've been able to kick it up with all these guys in between, I would say, about a 252 to even as high as a 275 in the case of Omando Sosa, as Yadier Molina, Dylan Carlson, Nolan Arenado, Tommy Edman all find themselves in that fold. For Mr. Arenado, 32 home runs and nearly 100 RBI. Paul Goldschmidt, ever since the beginning of the month of July, he's been able to hit right around 325. He's been able to hit right around 15 homers in that time span. Tyler O'Neill, he's been able to slug out 28 bombs. He's hitting at 285. Then you take a look at the Milwaukee Brewers, and Willie Adames returned to the fold yesterday along with Avisail Garcia. With Mr. Avisail Garcia along with Luis Urias, Eduardo Escobar, all these guys between 21 and 28 home runs, with Urias along with Eduardo Escobar. Both of these guys are in the pocket of between about a 250 to a 260, and then Garcia more around a 270 along with Willie Adames, who for the year is hitting about a 265, but you take a look at him in a Brewers uniform, hitting more like a 295. He has been absolutely terrific for this bunch. You've also got Colton Wong hitting nearly a 280, and for the Milwaukee Brewers, I really do like this bullpen. You've been able to get some great innings out of Jake Cousins. Hunter Strickland has been able to perform well for the team. Brad Boxberger has been a little bit shaky, but then you've got Devin Williams along Josh Hader. And then for the St. Louis Cardinals, Alex Reyes seems to be putting the pieces back together. Luis Garcia has actually been very good for the team. He's now got like a 270 ERA. TJ McFarland, it's been a little bit shaky recently, but by and large, has been able to do a relatively solid job. But in this spot, with the circuit numbers, I am going to be taking a look at the Brewers run line. And like I said, pretty much as long as I'm getting an 8 or lower, I'm going to be taking a look at the over. So looking over along with the crew. 957, 958 on the betting board. The Colorado Rockies are going to be playing host the LA Dodgers. One Julio Arias is going to be going for the Dodgers. Meanwhile, Antonio Senzatella is going to be going for the Rockies. The Rockies are finding themselves as underdogs of anywhere between plus 175 and a plus 181. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the Dodgers, it is anywhere between minus 186 and minus 210, with 11 being your total. Unders anywhere between minus 105, minus 120. The overs anywhere between even and minus 115. And if you're taking a look at the run line of the Dodgers, you're going to be finding that anywhere between a minus 132 to a minus 135. I was only willing to take this up to about a minus 122, so that's not enough for me. And if I was willing to get up to a plus 175, I was willing to take the Colorado Rockies, so that's where I'm going to be looking, because with Antonio Senzatella, he's been very good at home so far this year, has been able to do a better job on the road, and by and large, is just doing a good job of pitching in general. You take a look at this gentleman, and really ever since the beginning of the month of July, his ERA has been hovering right around about a 3.3, 3.2-ish, so he's come out, he's been able to perform very well ever since the beginning of of the month of August, he's allowed just 3 home runs in his last 8 starts, so that has been very good as well. You just take a look at him, and the team is winning whenever he takes them out. And the Colorado Rockies have won each out of his last 4 starts and 5 out of his last 6 overall. And he's been able to do a little bit of a better job at home with a 3.89 ERA at home compared to a 4.27 on the road, and opponents are getting about a 2.70 off of him, but he doesn't walk anyone. 13 walks in 78 and 2/3 innings. Meanwhile, you take a look at Mr. ODS, and he's been able to do his best work on the road. Out of his 18 wins, 12 of them have come on the road. 2.64 road ERA, 3.42 home ERA. He's given up 10 home runs in 92 innings on the road, and opponents are getting just a 2.13 off of him, so that has been very nice. And for the Dodgers, I just do have a couple question marks when it comes to this bullpen, because you've had this team be the second best bullpen in the big leagues pretty much all year, but you do have some question marks with guys like Alex Vesia, Justin Brule, Phil Bickford, some of those guys, so you do know that Corey Knebel's relatively reliable. And then when it comes to the Dodgers, this is a team that they do have a lot of fearsome power. Max Muncy, 34 home runs so far this year, and really all these guys have at least 20 home runs, and all these guys are hitting at least a 258, as you've got Will Smith, Justin Turner down for what, Trey Turner down for what, Mookie Betts, Chris Taylor, all between about 20 to 25 home runs. You've been dealing with a little bit of an injury to A.J. Pollock, but he's been solid. Corey Seager has been able to hit about a 285. Then you take a look at the Colorado Rockies, and this is a bunch that when they're at home, they are at their best. They've got the 3rd best home win percentage when it comes to National League teams, and this is a bunch that, as a collective, when they're at home, they've got the best batting average in the league at a 281. They've been able to do a good job of having quite a few guys go yard as well. This is just home games. CJ Cron, 18 home runs. He's hitting at 315 at Coors Field. At Coors Field, Trevor Story hitting like at 295 with 10 home runs. Meanwhile, on the road, that winds up sinking to right around the Mendoza line. Garrett Hampson is hitting 300 at home. And for the Colorado Rockies, you've had a lot of guys perform very well out of the bullpen when it comes to being on the road as well. Daniel Bard has been a completely different pitcher at home versus on the road, because on the road, his ERA is hovering right around an 8-ish. Meanwhile, at home, he's got an ERA that hovers more around a 3.3. You've had Jordan Sheffield give you a 2.4 ERA at home, Lucas Gilbreth at 2.55. So I do take a look at this Rockies bunch, and there is something in the air that has this team performing better in Colorado. I'm willing to take the plus price with the Colorado Rockies, and with this total set it at a 10.3. So going under along with the Rockies. 959, 960 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves are going to be hitting the road to face off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Luke Weaver is going to be going for the D-backs. Good old to be determined is going to be going for the Atlanta Braves. We've seen Touki Toussaint a little bit earlier, but right now this is a game that is off the board. If it would be Toussaint versus Luke Weaver, I'd be probably setting the Arizona Diamondbacks as in the neighborhood of about a plus 140-ish underdog, but certainly would be subject to a little bit of change there, because this is an Arizona Diamondbacks team that I think they would be able to get to Touki Toussaint, but at the same time, you've got an Arizona Diamondbacks team that got a lot of guys with between 11 and 12 home runs. Problem is, you don't have anyone with more than 12 home runs on this team, as Jose Rojas, Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, Dalton Varsho, Carson Kelly, Pavin Smith, all these guys between 11 and 12 home runs, and you got a lot of these guys that doing an okay job of being able to hit for you, as you've got David Peralta, Jose Rojas, along with Pavin Smith, only between about a 262 to 270, but you just need a little bit more on the team. Ketel Marte, I will say, hitting a 320, and then you take a look at the Atlanta Braves, and you've got a whole bunch of guys with at least 23 home runs in this lineup. Ode Soler, Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Adam Duvall, Dansby Swanson. With Swanson, along with Ozzie Albies, in between about a 252 to 255, Riley and Freeman, both hitting in the neighborhood of about a 300, so they've been absolutely spectacular. And then you've got an Atlanta Braves bullpen that ever since the All-Star break has been in the top 7 with regards to ERA. Tyler Madzik, ever since the beginning of the month of July, right around a 2 ERA. Drew Smyly is someone that they're now using out of the bullpen. Jacob Webb has actually been very good for the team along Luke Jackson. Then you've got an Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen that, well, they stink. Let's call it what it is. Tyler Clippard is anxious at age 38, and he might be their best reliever. Joe Manatipley has a sub-4 ERA that is considered very good for the team. Noe Ramirez, Sean Poppin, these guys have ERAs that are not necessarily great. Noe Ramirez has actually been okay. I'll give him a little bit of something, but then you also take a look at Luke Weaver, and inconsistency has been tough for him. Now, I will say this. He has made 3 starts ever since coming off the injured list, and that stint wound up lasting from mid-May until early September, and he's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in every one of them, but at the same time, this is a man that so far this year has given up right around 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. Command has not necessarily been bad, but you can tell that the swing and miss stuff that he typically has, as he's got his strikeouts per 9 rate of right around a 9.2 for his career. It's not there. It's more around an 8 so far this year, so that's been a little bit of an issue. So in this spot, if it winds up being something like Touki Toussaint versus Luke Weaver, we'll probably be setting the Arizona Diamondbacks right around about a plus 140, maybe a plus 145-ish underdog, and this would would be a spot in which a 9.5 or lower, I'd be taking a look at the over. A 10 or higher, I'd be taking a look at the under, but obviously we need to know the Atlanta Braves plan of attack before giving you anything set in stone. 961, 962 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants to throw to face off against the San Diego Padres. Kevin Gausman is going to be going for the Giants. Right now, ESPN says that Joe Musgrove is going to be making the start. Betting board says to be determined, so we've got no numbers up on this game. I do have numbers as if it would be Mr. Musgrove along with Kevin Gausman going at it, and in this spot I'd be setting the Giants at minus 133 with a total of a 7.8, so 7.5 or lower. We'd be taking a look at the over, an 8 or higher to the under. Now I am a little bit souring on Kevin Gausman as of right now because you take a look at him ever since the beginning of the month of July, he's got an ERA that it's in the neighborhood of about a 4.5. He hasn't necessarily been terrific in the last 30 days, a 4.41 ERA in his last 6 starts. He has not necessarily given up the deep ball or anything like that. 4 home runs and 4 walks given up across 32 and 2/3 innings, but opponents starting at 276 off of him, so it seems like they're starting to figure him out a little bit more, though I will say Kevin Gausman has been able to do by far his best work on the road. 3.64 home ERA compared to a 2.11 road ERA, which I don't necessarily know how that necessarily adds up, but he's been able to do a good job of being able to get swings and misses. Meanwhile, for Joe Musgrove, he has been really the most consistent guy for the San Diego Padres all season long because this is a pitching staff that has completely pooped out on them. He has given up 3 runs or fewer in now all but 1 out of his last 10 starts, so he's been relatively reliable there. And at home, a 2.42 ERA compared to a 3.54 on the road, giving up 8 home runs and 81 and 2/3 innings at home, with opponents sitting at 2.05 off of him. And then you take a look at the San Diego Padres team, and you do have guys that are putting contact on the ball. I mean, this is a bunch of which you've got Jake Cronenworth, Austin Supernola, along with Eric Hosmer, all in between about a 266 to a 270, and then you got Manny Machado, who's been able to hit a 275, along with our man Fernando Tatis Jr. Tatis Jr. has been able to slug out 39 home runs, Machado more like 24 of them, and these guys are relatively solid, but Adam Frazier, ever since coming over to this team, he has not been the same guy. He has been hitting right in the neighborhood of about a 265 with the Padres, and this is a bunch that they're in the bottom 2 of the National League with regards to runs per game ever since the beginning of the month of August, which is an issue because a Padres bullpen that was number 1 in the big leagues with regards to ERA going into the month of August, it's failed them because they're needing to start Jake Arrieta and Vince Velasquez, guys that get destroyed and guys that aren't able to give you innings. So guys like Pierce Johnson, Craig Stammen, Emilio Pagan, these guys have been used for too many innings and they're starting to wear down. Meanwhile, the Giants, their bullpen has been able to maintain. Jarlin Garcia has been able to do a good job for you. Dominique Leon still has an ERA that's right around a 175. Zach Liddell has been able to do a good job, sub 3 ERA there. And for the Giants, you've just got so much balance power on this team as Chris Bryant has really been able to carry the mail for the team. He and Brandon Belt have right around 26 home runs apiece, and then you've got all these guys with between 13 and 18 home runs, as you've got Evan Longoria, Austin Dickerson, who's currently injured, Darren Ruff, Lamonte Wade, Wilmer Flores, Buster Posey, all in that fold, and then Mike Yastrzemski, 23 bombs, Brandon Crawford, 21 home runs, and really everyone other than Yastrzemski all hitting really at least a 250 for this bunch, so that has been absolutely magnificent. So I take a look at the spot right now. If it is going to be Gausman against Joe Musgrove, we'll be setting the Giants right around a minus 133 favorite, and like I said, 7.5 or lower, we'll be taking a look at the over. 8 or higher, we'll be taking a look at the under, but subject to a little bit of change there. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals hit the road to face off against the Cleveland Indians. Cal Quantrill is going to be going for the Windians. Meanwhile, Daniel Lynch is going to be on the bump for the Royals. The Royals have find themselves as underdogs of anywhere between A plus 115 and A plus 120. Meanwhile, if you're looking to lay it with the Indians, it is anywhere between A minus 128 and A minus 135, with 9 being your total. Overs between minus 115 and minus 125, and the unders anywhere between minus 105 and plus 105. And for Daniel Lynch, he wound up getting destroyed in his last start after the team had been 7-2 in his previous 9 starts. Going 2 innings, only wound up giving up 3 runs, only one of which was earned, but you can tell that he just was lacking command in that start. Meanwhile, you take a look at Cal Quantrill, this is a man that has been able to do an absolutely masterful job of keeping teams off the board, as he has allowed 0 or 1 earned runs in now 4 out of his last 5 starts, and he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all but one of his starts ever since the beginning of the month of July, so that is 14 starts in total. So he has actually been very good at a 2.27 home ERA so far this year, has yet to lose a decision at home. For some reason, the Indians are winning like only 35% of the games that he pitches in, but he's pitched really well, so it hasn't been on him with the Cleveland Indians. They did wind up having to use up their bullpen a little bit, really both of these teams did, because it was a little bit of a bullpen game for the Kansas City Royals in game 2 of their double dip, and the same went for the Cleveland Indians, so that's a little bit of an issue, but When you take a look at the Indians, you do have Jose Ramirez along Franmil Reyes throwing their mile straw as well, only between about a 260 to a 270. And for Franmil Reyes, he's been able to go deep 30 times. Jose Ramirez, he has got 35 bombs. You need a couple of these guys to be able to pick it up. Ernie Clement, Robbie Bradley, Yu Chang, all in between about a 215 to a 225. And then you got guys like Andres Jimenez, Roberto Perez, Owen Miller hitting below a 210. But you have been able to get a little bit of something on this lineup, even with Amed Rosario injured. And then you take a look at the Kansas City Royals, and Salvador Perez just continues to be absolutely amazing. He gets home run number 46 in the doubleheader yesterday. He's got over 100 RBI. He, Whit Merrifield, you're able to throw in there Ender Benintendi, even Kyle Isbell, Answer Alberto, all these guys sitting between about a 260 to a 280, and then you got Nicky Lopez hitting just above a 300, so these guys have been relatively solid. And for the Royals, ever since the All-Star break, a top 6 bullpen ERA. Now, you wound up having to use up Joel Payampas as a starter yesterday. You've got guys like Josh Staymount, Domingo Tapia, they've been used quite a bit, but they've been able to hold up at the point of attack. I just think that Daniel Lynch, someone who wound up being able to win a bunch of starts, was a little bit of a paper tiger with that regard, because he does have a 5.34 ERA overall, but after he wound up getting sent down to the minors after struggling for a few starts, has been a little bit better and has actually done his best work on the road with a 3.99 road ERA, giving up 4 home runs in 29 and a third innings, and opponents are hitting a 306 off of him. So if you look at the peripheral numbers, he is doing for a little bit of regression, and I'm sort of banking on that a little bit because I did wind up saying the Indians is more around about a minus 160-ish favorite. I do think that it is going to be a little bit of tough sledding for these offenses. I think the bullpens are going to be a little bit more reliable, as Emmanuel Clase has been able to do a good job all year long for the Cleveland Indians. I recognize that someone like Trevor Seaman has not necessarily been great, but I do think that Kyle Quantrill going to be able to eat quite a few innings. So this is a spot in which I'm going to be taking a look at the Cleveland Indians. Set this all at 8.4, so going to be diving under as well. 965, 966 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers are going to be playing host to the Chicago White Sox. Dallas Keuchel goes for the Sox. Meanwhile, Tyler Alexander is going to be on the bump for the Tigers. 9.5 is your total. Under is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 125. The over is anywhere between minus 105 and plus 105. If you're looking at the White Sox, going to be laying anywhere between minus 160 and minus 170. Plus price with Detroit is anywhere between plus 146 and plus 150. And for Alexander, he hasn't necessarily been used in high doses, and he has been moving quite a bit between being a starter and being a bullpen piece, but all in all, it's not been too bad. He is giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but only 2.3 walks per 9, and he's been able to do a good job of just being able to limit damage in general, giving up 3 earned runs or fewer in really all but one of his appearances so far this year. Make it 2, but still, he's been able to do a relatively solid job of just being able to give you a good honest performance night in and night out, and relatively equal home to road splits. At home, a 4.28 ERA, a 4.01 ERA on the road. Big thing is, he's only given up 5 home runs at home in 40 innings compared to 10 in 49 and a third innings away from home, so that is a little bit of something. But then you take a look at Dallas Keuchel, and he has been absolutely terrible for the Chicago White Sox. His last start was actually not too bad, as he gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings against the LA Angels. But you just take a look at it, and the team is now 2-8 in his last 10 starts, as he has given up at least 4 runs in all but 3 out of those starts. So this is a man that is certainly getting lit up at this point, and the big thing with him is that he's just giving up a whole bunch of home runs. This is a man that has now given up 10 home runs over the course of his last 10 starts. Not much of a swing and miss guy, so that's a little bit of an issue. His walks per 9 rate, that's hovering right around about a 3.3 with the White Sox. You certainly do have a solid bullpen, as you're able to trot out there someone like a Ryan Tepera and Aaron Bummer to be able to give you some innings before you wind up getting to Craig Kimbrell along Liam Hendricks. And you take a look at this White Sox lineup, and it certainly is firing on all cylinders. Tim Anderson is sitting right around a 300. Luis Robert is hitting nearly a 350, and then all these guys hitting between about a 250 to a 265, and Yoel Moncada along with Eloy Jimenez, Jose Abreu, so they've been able to do a good job. Larry Garcia as well. And then you've been able to get quite a bit of something out of Yasmani Grandal ever since he came off the injury list. Going into yesterday, in his last 62 at-bats, 8 home runs and hitting at 371, so he certainly has been able to supply for the team. Meanwhile, you take a look at the Detroit Tigers, and the home run ball has shrunk for quite a few of these guys. Jonathan Scoper, Robbie Grossman, Eric Haas, all between 20 and 23 home runs. They haven't necessarily been able to go deep a lot recently, but you saw Scope hitting at 275 for the team. Jameer Candelario is in that fold as well. Got quite a few guys in between about a 250 to a 260. Akil Baddoo has been a little bit banged up. Justin Garneau along with Miguel Cabrera throwing there. Isaac Paredes base as well. Need a little bit more of something like a Des Cameron along with Willie Castro, but by and large, offense has been okay for the team. For the Detroit Tigers, top 10 bullpen ERA ever since the All-Star break. Derek Holland has been able to actually give you a couple innings, which is surprising, and then Michael Fulmer has been relatively solid out of the bullpen for multiple innings. You are dealing with a couple of injuries as Gregory Soto is currently on the injured list, but you get back Ian Krall to be able to help with the loss of Jose Cicerno as well. And then you just take a look at this Detroit Tigers team in general. Ever since the All-Star break, they actually do have an above 500 record, which I think would surprise a lot of people, and I just don't have any faith in Dallas Keuchel being this big of a favorite. I was willing to take the Tigers anything north of a plus 130, so I'm going to be taking a shot there in the way that he has been giving up the deep ball. I do think that we're going to get quite a few runs, but I think that Alexander is going to be able to hold up at the point of attack in a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark as well, so I set this all at 9.2, so going to be going under on 9.5, and I'm going to be taking the plus price here with the Tigers. 967, 968 is the New York Post play of the day. You got the Walker, Texas Rangers hitting the road to face off against the New York Yankees. Jordan Montgomery is going to be going for the Yankees. Dane Ginter-Dunning is going to be on the bump for the Rangers. 8.5 is your total. The under is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even and minus 115. If you're looking at the Rangers, big plus price to be at, anywhere between a plus 219 and a plus 235. Meanwhile, if you're looking to lay it with New York, that is anywhere between minus 243 and minus 280. And if you're looking at the run line of this spot, you're going to be finding the Yankees anywhere between about a minus 123 to a minus 135. And this is a situation which, with the Rangers, I was willing to take them as long as I was able to get $2 or greater, so going to be taking a shot there. But the real New York Post play of the day is going to be the over, because you take a look at Jordan Montgomery, and he's got right around a 3.6 ERA in his last 10 starts at home. He hasn't necessarily been bad, but he also hasn't necessarily been too terrific. And you take a look at the splits of Mr. Dane Ginter-Dunning, and well, he is someone that has been a whole heck of a lot better in Arlington than he's been on the road. 2.67 home ERA, 6.65 road ERA, and you take a look at it, he's given up 7 home runs in 43 and a third innings away from Arlington. Opponents starting at 3.17 off of him, so that's a little bit of an issue. You got a New York Yankees team that seems to be coming into their own with their offense as well. They were able to put up a bunch of runs yesterday. You've got a trio of guys, Giancarlo Stanton, Joey Gallo, Aaron Judge, all that have been able to give you at least 30 home runs. Got a couple guys that they do need to work on their batting average. Mr. Gallo, Gary Sanchez, Kyle Higashioka, Brett Gardner, Rude Odor. They didn't get 220 or lower, but you also have Gleyber Torres, Gio Urshela, both hitting between about a 250 to a 260. DJ LeMahieu hitting more like a 270, and Anthony Rizzo hasn't necessarily done a ton for this team, but you know that he's been a good presence for them. Meanwhile, the Texas Rangers, they're getting a couple guys healthy, as you've got back now Andy Ibanez, along with Willie Calhoun, a pair of guys in between about a 250 to a 265. Nick Solak has been able to give you a little bit of something. DJ Turn It Up Peters, only right around 200, but has been able to give this team 9 home runs over the last 35 days. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is hitting at 270, and going into this trip to New York, this is a Texas Rangers bunch that had scored at least 4 runs in 5 out of their last 6 road games, which is big because going into this series, they were the team with the fewest runs per game of any team since the All-Star break in all of baseball. And this is a bullpen of the Texas Rangers that you've got a couple guys doing an okay job for you, as Spencer Penton's been able to give you a couple innings. You've had, coming out of the bullpen, some very good performances recently out of Dennis Santana, though he has been shaky for the year with a 4.74 ERA. Jarrell Cotton has been better recently, but I saw my question marks there. And then you take a look at the New York Yankees, and they've been a very average to below average bullpen over the last 30 days as well. You've got Jonathan Loaiza currently on the injured list. Aroldis Chapman since mid-June has right around a 6 ERA. Michael King has been able to give you some length, which is nice. Wandy Peralta, Joey Rodriguez, they've been able to give you a tad bit of something. And what Luis Severino gives you, it's anyone's guess at this point, but I did take a look at this spot. I do think that both of these starters are going to give up some runs, and both of these bullpens seem a little bit leaky. I was willing to set this total more around a 9.5, so New York Post play today is going to be the over. Also going to take the plus price here with the Rangers. 969, 970 on the betting board. The Toronto Blue Jays hit the road to face off against the Tampa Bay Rays. Drew Rasmussen is going to be going for the Rays. Alek Manoah is going to be going for the Jays. The Jays are finding themselves as very slight underdogs of anywhere between even money and plus 105, with the Rays laying anywhere between minus 110 and minus 120. 8 is your total. Under is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even and minus 105. And for Mr. Manoah, what he has been relatively good, but not as good as Drew Rasmussen. Rasmussen has now been able to make 6 starts for the Tampa Bay Rays, really over the last month and a half or so, and he has been absolutely magnificent, giving up 0 or 1 runs in every one of them. It has been amazing to watch him so far this year. He has done a great job of being able to limit the deep ball. 2 home runs given up in 49 innings. His walks per 9 rate, that hovers right around 2.3. Meanwhile, you take a look at Manoah, right around 1 home run per 9 innings, surrendered along 3 walks, so he's been able to do a good job there. But with Manoah, hasn't necessarily been the same pitcher on the road. 4.34 road ERA, 2.47 home ERA in 9 road starts. He's given up 7 home runs in 45 2/3 innings, and he's going up against the Tampa Bay Rays team that is right there with the Houston Astros as the top scoring offense in all of baseball. Trio of guys with at least 30 home runs for the team in Nelson Cruz, Brandon Lau, and Mike Zunino. You've also got Austin Meadows, who's been able to supply 25 bombs. He's got 100 RBI for the year. Then you've got Randy Arozarena along Joey Wendell, both hitting between about a 265 to a 270 now. You do have Wander Franco on the fold. He had that ridiculous on-base streak before going on the injured list, so that hurts to see him a little bit. But you notice it with so many of these guys. Even someone like Taylor Walls, who's only hitting right around 210, he's got a 315 on base. G-Man Choi along the Andy Diaz, both have north of a 350 on base, despite neither of those guys hitting above a 260. Then you take a look at the Toronto Blue Jays, and you do have a lot of firepower with the team. Teoscar Hernandez and Bo Bichette, both hitting between about a 290 to a 305 for Hernandez. A grand total of 29 home runs with going deep yesterday, 26 for Mr. Bichette. You've got George Springer, who's been struggling a little bit since coming off the injured list, but certainly is able to supply the boom. Marcus Semien and Vlad Guerrero Jr. north of 40 bombs apiece, including Vlad Guerrero Jr. at 46. So you've got a lot there. But for the Tampa Bay Rays, bullpen is a little bit more shaky as well. With the Rays, they now have back Nick Anderson. You've been able to get some good performances out of guys like Andrew Kittredge. JP Fireeisen is fresh off the injured list as well. Then you take a look at the Blue Jays, and ever since coming off the injured list, Julian Merriweather hasn't necessarily been great. Jordan Romano's giving you some good innings, but Taylor Saucedo, he's got his question marks as well. So I do take a look at the spot. Got a pair of young pitchers, and I've got a little bit more faith here in Drew Rasmussen. As a result, set the Rays as more like a minus 135 favorite, so certainly willing to take that. Set the solid at 8.3 as well. So going over along with the Rays, 971, 972 on the betting board. The Houston Astros hit the road face off against the LA Angels. There was a little bit of question mark as to who the Astros would be going with, but it's going to be Jose Urquidy for them. Meanwhile, Packy Naughton is going to be on the bump for the Angels, with Urquidy being a little bit of a late decision. Currently have no numbers up on this game, but at the book of Greg Peterson, the Astros are minus 184 favorite. Would be willing to lay up to about a minus 125-ish on the run line. Set this all on 9.2, so a 9 or lower. Going to be taking a look at the over, 9.5 or higher to the under. And you take a look at the LA Angels, and this has been a ghastly bad offense. They are scoring the fewest runs per game of any team out there in the month of September, and ever since the All-Star break, they've had the second worst offense in all of baseball. So that is something that is very concerning if you are a fan of the Angels. And you just take a look at this Houston Astros lineup, and it is the complete opposite. As you got Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Carlos Correa, all hitting at least a 275 with 24 plus home runs. Alex Bregman is hitting nearly a 300. Michael Bradley's been out with injury, but even his replacement has been very good, as Bradley's hitting about a 315. Jose Siri going into yesterday was hitting a 450 with 3 home runs and 20 at-bats. Chas McCormick, 13 bombs at about 250 ABs. He's hitting right around 250. And then you look at the Angels, and Shohei Ohtani, ever since the beginning of, I would say the month of August, has been hitting right around the Mendoza line. He, along with Brandon Marsh, both hitting about a 250 to a 260 overall for the season. David Fletcher, Phil Gosselin, Jared Walsh, lying between about a 265 to about a 275-ish, but for Fletcher, hitting right around 240 ever since the beginning of the month of August. Jared Walsh, ever since the All-Star break, just 5 home runs for the team. And then you've got an Angels bunch, of which the bullpen has not necessarily been great. Jimmy Ergo has been able to give you a couple innings recently, but now you're relying upon guys like Jose Marte, Oliver Ortega, Austin Warren, guys like this, to be able to give you innings. That's not a place where you want to be. And then you take a look at Mr. Naughton, and he was able to deliver 5 scoreless innings against the San Diego Padres about a week and a half ago. Then you take a look at his last start, and wasn't so great against the White Sox, giving up 4 runs in 2 2/3 innings. The team wound up getting clobbered, and you take a look at the 5 games in which he has pitched in. The team is 1-4 whenever Packy Naughton pitches in a game. And then you take a look at Jose Urquidy, and the home and road splits are there with him. At home, he's got a strikeout to walk rate of nearly 10 for his career. Meanwhile, on the road, it's closer to about a 2.5-ish, but still, on the road, 3.55 ERA compared to a 3.15 home ERA so far this year. He's given up 6 home runs in both locations, and has actually pitched a couple more innings on the road. Opponents are at 2.20 122 off of him when he's away from Houston. And then you take a look at the Astros bullpen. Kendall Graveman has been able to do a good job for this team. I like what I'm getting out of Yimi Garcia as well. And then you take a look at some of the other guys like a Brooks Raley, not necessarily great for the team, but at the same time, Ryan Presley has right around a 2 ERA for the team as well. So in this spot, I am setting the Astros as a minus 184 favorite with right around a minus 123 on that 1.5 run line. And this is a spot in which a 9 or lower, I'd be taking a little the over 9.5 or higher to the under. 973, 974 on the betting board. The Oakland A's are going to be playing us to the Seattle Mariners. Marco Gonzalez could be going for the M's. Meanwhile, Paul Blackburn is going to be going for the A's. A's are finding themselves anywhere between minus 115 and minus 125 favorites. Meanwhile, with the Mariners, you're going to be getting them between plus 105 and plus 110. 8.5 is your total. Unders anywhere between minus 110 and minus 120. The overs anywhere between even and minus 110. With the Mariners, I was willing to take them as long as I was able to get at least a plus 103 price. I wound up saying this as a relative pick'em game, and good gosh darn it, we have gotten there on them. As you take a look at this Oakland A's team, and it certainly has been a little bit of a winding road for Paul Blackburn, but you take a look at it ever since the beginning of the 2018 campaign. This is someone with north of a 6 ERA. He's got a strikeouts per 9 rate that hovers right around a 5.5 to a 6-ish, so hasn't necessarily been great there. Now, I will say, this year he's been a little bit better. His ERA is sub 5, which that's not necessarily saying a whole heck of a lot, but been able to do a little bit better job, but has given up 5 home runs over the course of 27 and a third innings. Then you take a look at Mr. Marco Gonzalez. He has given up the deep ball, giving up a home runs per 9 rate of right around 2, but at the same time, he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in now 13 out of his last 15 starts, so he's been highly reliable with that regard as someone that has been able to lessen the walks as well. This is a man that has now given up 10 walks over the course of his last 9 starts, so he's been able to rein it in there. He's been a little bit worse on the road than at home. 380 home ERA, 439 road ERA, but at the same time, he's given up nearly half the amount of home runs as well. 17 home runs given up in 71 innings at home, 9 bombs in 53 and a third innings on the road, and he's backed up by a really good bullpen as you've got Casey Sadler with right around a 1-ish ERA. Paul Sewald has begun to regress a little bit, but Drew's second rider, he's got right around a 225-ish ERA. You've even been able to look to Sean Doolittle recently for the team, and then for the Oakland A's, this bullpen has become highly unreliable over the last 30 days in the bottom 5 of the big leagues. Andrew Chafin, Jake Diekman, these guys have been relatively solid recently, but Sergio Romo has turned into Submergio Romo. Lou Trevino going into yesterday over the last 30 days, he had an ERA of a 12.19. I mean, it is just absolutely terrible what we're seeing from there. Sam Maul is someone that's being looked at for innings, and then you take a look at the Seattle Mariners, and certainly the batting average is not there for a lot of these guys, but you've got a couple guys doing a solid job for you as you've been able to have Abraham Toro hit right around 275 ever since coming over from the Houston Astros. J.P. Crawford is hitting at 265, Ty France hitting just below a 300, and then Mitch Haniger along with Kyle Seager, both 34 home runs so far this year. Haniger is hitting at 250, but you've got Kyle Seager, Dylan Moore, along with Jorge Mamaloes, Tom Murphy, Jared Kelnick. You're able to throw in there other guys like a Shed Long hitting a 215 or lower for this bunch. And then you take a look at the Oakland A's and got a lot of guys with at least a 350 on base for you. Josh Harrison, Starling Marte of the Marte Parte, Mark Canha. You're able to throw in there Matt Olson as well. And for Olson, he's been carrying the mail. 36 home runs so far this year. And for Matt Chapman, his addition to the lineup has been big for the team, bringing him back off the injured list because ever since the beginning of the month of August, he's got 12 home runs and right around 130 or so at bats. Wound up having a really bad start to the year, but since the beginning of the month of August, right around a 365-ish on base. So that has been good for the team, but at the same time, I take a look at this game. I think that the Mariners should be in a relative pick'em, so being able to get them at a plus price is something that appeals to me, and I do think that both of these teams are going to be able to give you right around 4 to 5 runs. So this is the spot in which I set the total at 9.1, so going to be going over along with the Seattle Mariners. 975, 976 is a game that is currently off the board entirely between the Baltimore Orioles, who hit the road to face off against the Philadelphia Phillies. Right now, ESPN says that Chris Ellis is going to be getting the start for the Baltimore Orioles, and this is pretty much a designated bullpen spot for the Philadelphia Phillies. They've been using this spot in the rotation out of the bullpen pretty much for the last few weeks, and this is a spot in which, if you do wind up getting bullpen game against Chris Ellis, I'd be setting the Orioles as right around a plus 180 underdog, and I'd be making this total an 8.5. So an 8.5 or lower, I'd be taking a look at the over 9 or higher. I'd be taking a look at the under, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, you certainly do have a bullpen that has been a tad bit better recently, and you've got to give the Philadelphia Phillies some credit. This is a team that they just play so much better at home than they do on the road, especially when it comes to pitching. I have no idea what it is, but a lot of the guys on this team have been significantly better at home than on the road. More so these starting pitchers, but even something like Ramon Rosso is someone who on the road has nearly a 9 ERA. That's more like a 4 at home. Sam Coonrod has right around a 4 ERA at home. Archie Bradley more like a 3.7. And for Bradley, a lot of the year has actually been relatively solid from recently things have been rough. But you take a look at Chris Ellis, and the Baltimore Orioles are 4-1 in his last 5 starts. He's given up 3 runs or fewer in every one of them. He has given up 3 home runs over the course of 26 and a third innings so far this year. But by and large, he's been able to give this team a little bit of something. But then you look at this Orioles bullpen, and Cole Sulzer is really the only guy that's been able to give you some good innings. Good news is John Means was able to lend a good start, so it's not necessarily overly taxed, but we've seen some of these guys like a Connor Green with north of a 5 ERA. Tanner Scott's been able to give you a little bit of something, but then you take a look at Fernando Abad, Dustin Knight, and you have no faith in any of these guys. But then you take a look at the lineup, and you've got Richie Martin, Trey Boo Boo Mancini, Austin the Sayes Kid, Anthony Santander, Pedro Severino. All these guys hitting between about a 240 to a 260 with Hayes along with Mancini. Both of these guys between 20 and 22 home runs. Cedric Mullins and Ryan Mountcastle both between 29 and 31 home runs apiece. For Mountcastle, he's hitting about a 260. Mullins has been able to hit right around a 300. But then you've got Ryan McKenna, Pat Faleka, Austin Wins, Kelvin Gutierrez, lots of guys that are hitting a sub 215 for this team. And then with Philadelphia Phillies, Bryce Harper is a man possessed right now. 17 home runs ever since the beginning of the month of August, and he's hitting right around a 315 with a 430 on base. That is what I would call good. Andrew McCutcheon only hitting about a 220, but 24 home runs. He's got an on base right around a 332. Odubel Herrera along Freddie Galvis are in between about a 250 to a 255. Gene Segura's hitting a 300 for this bunch, so you've had a little bit of something there. So this is a situation which I wound up saying the Philadelphia Phillies, like I said, right around a minus 180-ish favorite, because you take a look at them at home, they are right around 42 and 32. Meanwhile, on the road, they are quite a few games below 500, so they perform their best in Philadelphia. And like I said, 8.5 or lower, I'm going to be taking a look at the over, 9 or higher to the under. 977, 978 on the betting board. The New York Metropolitans hit the road to face off against the Boston Red Sox as Eduardo Rodriguez is going to be going for the Sox. Meanwhile, Marcus Stroman is going to be on the bump for the Mets. Total on this game is 9.5. Under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 120. Over is between even and minus 110. If you're looking at the Sox, it is anywhere between minus 141, even seeing as low as minus 138 to a minus 155. Meanwhile, your plus price with the Mets is anywhere between plus 128 and a plus 140. And for Marcus Stroman, he's actually been able to do some really good work on the road. And for Eduardo Rodriguez, he has been a little bit all over the place so far this year. With Stroman, certainly deserves better than a 9-12 record with a 2.88 ERA overall. And on the road, that actually shrinks to a 2.81. He's given up 10 home runs in 96 innings on the road compared to just 4 in 73 at home. But put on starting at 221 off of him. The command has been there. His overall walks per 9 rate, that is hovering right around about a 2.2. Meanwhile, you take a look at Mr. Rodriguez, and he's got right around a 5-ish ERA. He has been able to do a better job recently, as he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in something like 7 out of his last 9 starts. But at the same time, it certainly has been rough whenever he's given up more than that, as he has also given up 5+ runs in 3 out of his last 9 starts. So you've got a little bit of this and that going on, and you take a look at Mr. Rodriguez, and he's got a 6.32 home ERA in 11 starts at home. He's given up 8 bombs over the course of 52 and 2/3 innings, and opponents starting at 278 off of him. He is backed up by a lineup that has been able to do a very good job, as you've got a Boston Red Sox team that has a whole bunch of guys that have been able to match so far this year. Hunter Renfroe, JD Martinez, Bobby Dolbeck, Xander Bogaerts, along Kyle Schwarber. All between 22 and 29 home runs. And then you've got Rafael Devers, 34 bombs, 105 RBI. He's hitting at 275. With Renfroe, you're able to throw in there Kike Hernandez, Christian Vasquez. All these guys are in between about a 250 to a 265. Schwarber in there as well. And Bobby Dolbeck. How about what this guy's been able to do over the last 30 days? In the last 30 days going into this game, 9 home runs and 75 at-bats, and he's hitting a 320. So that has been huge for this team. And then you take a look at the flip side for the New York Mets, and you got 2 guys that are doing a good job of being able to take a yard. Javi Baez along with Pete Alonso. Both of these guys have been able to give you between 30 and 33 home runs. Both of these guys hitting in the neighborhood of about a 260, and been able to get a little bit of something recently out of Mr. Jonathan VR. He, Jeff McNeil, are both hitting between about a 252 to a 254, and for VR, 18 home runs ever since the beginning of the month of August, right around a 355-ish on base. You've been able to have the catcher spot give you a little bit of something, but James McCann and Thomas Hito both hitting between about a 230 to a 235 is not ideal. And then Michael Conforto, Kevin Pillar, Francisco Lindor, all in between a 223 and a 229 is an issue, but you know it's not an issue. The bullpen of the Mets. You never thought you'd be saying this about 3 years ago, but I mean, this team has been relatively solid there. Edwin Diaz and Long George Familia haven't necessarily been as good in the second half, but Aaron Loop has a sub 1.5 ERA. Trevor May, he's had his ups and his downs, but he saw his right around a 3.7-ish ERA over the last 3 days. This is someone who's got a 2.38 ERA. Seth Lugo has come along for the ride as well. Then you got a Boston Red Sox team that they've been a little bit more shaky out of the bullpen recently, but they seem to be reining it back in with Matt Barnes, the left-hander, Kazusawa being off the injured list. Garrett Woodlock all year long has been a good two-inning guy. He has been able to give you right around a 2 ERA, but it is looking like he might wind up going on the injured list, so that is something that you do want to note with this Boston Red Sox team, because it is a bullpen that they really do need them, and this is a spot in which, with the New York Mets, I was willing to take them as long as I was getting a plus 140 or greater, and we have just barely gotten there. I also wound up setting the total at a 9.1, so I'm going to be diving under with the way that Stroman has been performing on the road, and I'm going to be taking that plus price with the Mets, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. As we've got the Minnesota Twins in the road face off against the Chicago Cubs. Alec Mills is going to be going for the Cubs. Griffin Jax is going to be going for the Twins. Twins find themselves as a slight underdog to right around a minus 105-ish, which is typically what you're going to find in a pick'em game. They're anywhere between minus 105 to a plus 103. Meanwhile, the Cubs are very small favorites of anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 115. Only Circa currently has a total listed that is at 8, under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. A lot of books wind up waiting until the AM to post a total because of the wind situation. Right now, I'm seeing winds blowing in right around like 10 to 12 miles per hour, so I wound up saying the total at an 8.1, so an 8 or lower like we're seeing at Circa. I'd be taking a look at the over 8.5 or higher. I would be taking a look at the under. Big thing is with Griffin Jax, he is getting just all jacked up. I don't think that wind is going to be able to help him out with this, because 19 home runs given up in 69 innings is just a complete and utter calamity. I mean, my goodness. And on the road, a 7.16 ERA, 6.19 at home. On the road, 9 bombs given up in 32 and 2/3 innings. Opponents starting at 252 off of him, and his walks per 9 rate on the road hovering right around about a 4.3. Meanwhile, you take a look at Alec Mills, and he's been able to do a relatively solid job at Wrigley Field so far this year. 4.41 home ERA, 4.58 road ERA, has given up 8 home runs in 51 innings himself, and opponents starting at 293 off of him. Then you take a look at both of these teams, and both of these offenses aren't necessarily great, but at the same time, they're not necessarily terrible. Ode Polanco and Miguel Sano, a combined 60 home runs out of both of these guys. Josh Donaldson has been able to go deep 24 times. He's got a batting average right around 245, but also a 345 on base. Luis Arias is hitting just below a 300. Ever since coming off the injured list, Brian Buxton hitting right around the middle of the line of a 200, which is a little bit of an issue. And then you just take a look at all these guys hitting a 225 or lower, and it's bad. Brent Rooker. Sino, I mentioned a little bit earlier, though, is on base right around a 340 ever since the beginning of the month of July, but he's in there as well. And Dalton Simmons, Max Kepler, Ryan Jeffers, J.K., Ben Roadfit. These guys just have not been able to hit for you. And then you take a look at the Chicago Cubs, and Frank Schwindel has been absolutely amazing for them. How about him now hitting at 340 with a 382 on base? 14 home runs doesn't necessarily sound so significant, but 9 home runs in the last 30 days for this team. Yeah, that's good. Patrick Wisdom is giving you a home run every about 11 or so at bats. He's got 27 overall this year, hitting about a 240. Nico Horner is back. He's hitting above a 300. You've got Rafael Ortega, who's hitting at 275. Matt Duffy's hitting 265, so that's been good. And you take a look at the bullpen end, it is a little bit rough, but I will say Cody Hoyer, ever since coming over from the Chicago White Sox, he's actually been able to do a good job for this team. In a Cubs uniform, he's got a $1.40 ERA, so got a little bit of something to build off of there. Adam Morgan is right around 3.2 ERA. Now, when you wind up getting into guys like Michael Rucker, Manuel Rodriguez, Rowan Wick, these guys are not necessarily great. And then you take a look at the Minnesota Twins, and Alex Colomé has been a big giant waste of money. Ode Okala has an ERA that's hovering right around 5. Kyle Barraclough, he's got an ERA that's hovering right around 6. Danny Colombe, Luke Farrell, Ralph Garza have been able to give you a little bit of something, but you got a not necessarily great bullpen in this spot. So an 8, like we're seeing currently at Circa, I will be taking a look at the over despite winds blowing badly in, and with the Cubs, want to lay up to about a minus 125 in this spot. So looking Cubs, I'm looking at an over of 8, and that will wrap things up on the Baseball Betting Podcast for this most wonderful Tuesday. A big thanks to our good friend Sharky Waters Nation for joining me in the second segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcast: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you've got a question, comment, segment idea, whatever for this podcast, got one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'll be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.